Hello and welcome to the Enterprise Talk Conversation Series, a peer knowledge resource by the CXOs for the CXOs. Now to our host, Kanika Goswami.
Hi, we welcome you to a podcast on stage with enterprise thought leaders. My name is Kanika Goswami and I'm the managing editor of On Media's B2B enterprise technology publications. We have engaging conversations with global thought leaders and industry experts, which reach over 1.3 million business leaders worldwide. Today, we have a very interesting conversation, first of its kind, if I may say so. Our guest is Andrew Kirkcaldy. He's a CEO of By Gamers for Gamers. Hi, Andrew. Welcome to our podcast. I'm sure we're going to have a great conversation with you today.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Okay, so our discussion today will center around navigating the AI content landscape, the challenges, the policies, and the opportunities. I will introduce Andrew in a few lines here. Andrew's company has developed an AI platform which is called Content Guardian that will help detect AI in content. Andrew is an experienced and results-driven brand, digital, and commerce marketer with over 7 years of experience working at the strategic executive board level for an FTSE 100 business. Andrew was in the digital and e-commerce field for over 12 years, 10 years of those at AO World, and he's now focused on building a new media publisher startup in the gaming and technology sector. Like I said, it's a first of a kind. We have never spoken to somebody in this sector before, so I'm really looking forward to this. But first of all, Andrew, would you tell us a little bit about Content Guardian?
Yeah, sure. So basic Content Guardian was born out of our core business. We're a digital publisher, so we have lots of different sites. And basically, we work with lots of collaborators. And what we found was, how could we, with confidence, know that our content that we're getting sent isn't just being generated by AI? And we actually found that we were starting to use AI detectors ourselves as a publisher. But we found that we couldn't rely just on one checker. We couldn't put all the eggs in one basket. So we actually started using 3 or 4, manually having to go and check, which became quite cumbersome. And we said, well, there must be a better way. Is there anything out there that can help us as a publisher who have 10 different sites, millions of people coming to our sites every single day? How do we make sure we can do that in an efficient way? And in effect, we couldn't find anything. So that's where we developed this tool internally. And basically, the principle is, how do we to go and connect to multiple AI detectors and then in effect bring those scores and aggregate. So it gives us the confidence as a publisher that our content is human generated and then looks human. That then ultimately develops internally to now we've productized it and it's now known as Content Guardian, which we believe is a unique and world first. There's many content detectors out there, and this is the first time anyone's aggregated and pulled multiple into one tool.
So before we start with the questions, we also face this challenge for our platforms, and you would understand we have 6 of them. If we get AI-generated content to upload, we try to avoid it because we're not sure where Google stands on it. But there are 3 or 4 tools that we use, and none of them seem to be very accurate. So accuracy is an issue, and I'm hoping Content Guardian would be taking care of it, because you can't really go back to a writer and say this is AI-generated, and then they come back to you and tell you that, no, I wrote it. So you've taken care of the accuracy part of it for the tool, I hope.
Yes, certainly. I think actually a lot of this is all based on predictions. Yes, by no means black and white. So it needs to be based on also your business tolerance of AI. And certain, no doubt we'll talk later about it, certain types of content leans into more AI than other pieces. So I think every business needs to look at it as an aid, not necessarily de facto, yes, it is or not, everything needs to be interpreted.
Right. So my first question would be, what challenges does AI-generated content create for publishers, for content marketers, and for businesses? The direct answer would be that Google will not use it for search engines. Please tell us the detailed answer then.
Sure. So the way I like to look at it is from an overarching business perspective, because AI isn't just going to affect content creators, content marketers, and so forth. But I think from a business perspective, I think what enables businesses in a positive way is sort of obliterate barriers to entry. So from a marketing perspective, when you try and compete with the big brands, the big players, they have armies of marketeers. I think AI will enable and empower a single marketeer to compete with those sort of large traditional teams. So I think that's a positive. I think creates competitive tension. But also I think a potential negative that I think and challenge will be is how do we make sure that executives, CEOs of businesses don't just see us as a cost efficiency exercise, a way just to cut costs and take people out of businesses. So I think, AI, of course, is intelligent, but it's no substitute to a human being. And I think that's going to be the interesting thing that's going to develop over time is how do we ensure that we rely on what AI is ultimately trying to tell us, and that's just a math problem. It's a prediction. I think there's a lot of things that, say, marketing that will bring to the fore, and I think certainly because we are grown through digital and marketing over the years, and very much the digital has brought, the internet has brought more science to marketing, where prior to that, your above line activities were all based on the art, and I think AI will further accelerate the science and make that more of a commodity, so everyone can do everything at scale. But I hope more and more people start to look at the art of marketing, because ultimately humans make decisions on an emotional level, not on a rational perspective. And I think AI, of course, can bring ideas, but humans know how to ultimately influence decision based on emotion, and that ultimately emotion, decision making that way has no language; it's a feeling. So I think that certainly it's a challenge as such, and it's an opportunity to focus more on that side of marketing. But obviously, the more functional side, the science side, I think that's what's going to very much change the landscape of AI. And so to bring it more into publishers and content creators, I think the world content creators, the amount of content gets pumped out was significant before AI, and it's just going to exponentially grow. I think the challenge will be, and so for us as a publisher, that standout is going to be very much the main key aspect we're trying to make sure is how do we have standout on any content we create to get that person's attention. And ultimately that's where the art and creativity plays a big part. And certainly from our point of view, the team, what we try and get into our teams is much, how can we be first? So we can't be first, how do we be different? And certainly from a Google perspective, it's looking at how do I, when a person searches for whatever topic or keyword, they're trying to present a result that ultimately builds a complete picture. And that isn't just basically showing the results that everyone has the same perspective. And ultimately AI tools will look at what's already out there and say, this is basically the consensus, therefore write that. So I think we're looking at, okay, well, if everyone's saying this, how do we have a different angle? And also that's what Google's trying to do, is trying to provide users with useful content that's complete and gives everyone the full insight, whatever that may be. So therefore, being original is certainly, I think, a really important thing. So as a publisher, that's what we're pushing. It is a challenge because you have a lot of people out there who are really growing their sites through just solely AI. And there is goings on at the moment with March update that is trying to combat that. But I'd say those sort of, for me, I'd say those are also the initial challenges, but also opportunities that AI will bring.
So this is an off-topic question, and this is purely for my information. What happens if we publish AI-generated content? What is the impact of Google SEO and its ranking if it's AI-generated content? What actually happens?
I think if we go back, say, the last 12 months, I think a lot of sites were getting away with just generating AI content with no oversight, and they were ranking. But I think that was a short-lived thing. This big algorithm update happening at the moment, getting rolled out, was very much to target those types of sites, lots of spam sites, mass content-generated sites that would provide no original, insightful content. And Google's guidelines isn't saying you can't use AI. It's saying you can use AI, make sure it benefits the user. So I think where AI needs to be seen as a tool to think, an aid to thinking, not replacement. You need to be able to provide your additional perspective and demonstrate how you actually, whatever topic it may be, you actually have some level of understanding and expertise in that topic. So I think it's going to be a companion, and so that's how Google are positioning it, is a companion to whatever you do, whether it's content creation, publishing, or whatever it may be. So I don't think it's not saying no, so you can rank with AI. It's just that what level do you want to push to be seen as AI? And that's nobody knows the answer yet to that.
Right. And what policies do you think should search engines have in place to curb the spread of content or misinformation generated through AI tools?
the good thing is they are working hard. Google by no means perfect. Certainly when we're keeping a close eye on what's happening and the result of probably what this is being one of the biggest updates I've seen for a long while. All the core systems get updated. So I think they already are starting to put in place key things. But the way I sort of see it, and certainly how we, from a publisher perspective, how we're looking at it is, how do we start to really look at social in a different way, rather than keeping it separate to what we do as a web publisher? Because I think social engagement is becoming a more important factor. Certainly with the last update in October, the Reddits and forums had a lot more prominence, ultimately getting more of a weight in Google. So that could lead to believe that ultimately Google are looking for real people to engage, real perspectives. And you look at a lot of social platforms, they have had spam issues, spam accounts, fake accounts, and they've put a lot of things in place when people log in. There's a lot of extra steps to make sure you're seen as a human. And I think Google's looking, and these all surmise, it's by no means, this is just my view, but I think they're utilizing that to see if ultimately they're seeing people engaging on a piece of content from a social point of view, engaging, commenting, and so forth, clicking through social. They can say, well, these are a lot of indications from real people that they actually like this content. It's actually adding value. And that's certainly the area where we're doing lots of tests to see, how can social have an impact on our SEO rankings? And also, how can we start building in more real perspectives through forums, comments, and so forth on our existing content? Real authors, I think that Google are looking to make sure that the people who are writing the content are real people, not just AI avatars. And one of the ways I think, well, certainly if they've demonstrated looking at doing this is on the technical side of SEO, they've just brought out the profile schema, which is structured data being a standard approach to present information for Google to help it understand what it's about. And now that's an officially supported thing. And the profile is basically the author profile page, just like you would have a social profile. It's doing the same from a web perspective. Obviously, it's encouraging to make sure you demonstrate expertise, linking to how your education, your social profiles. So it's trying to make sure that real authors actually then link into their social profiles and ultimately joining the dots up. So, and certainly that I think that's an ever increasingly important factor to make sure that content that's written is actually then accredited to a real person. And so the final way I look at it is, how does it make sure it provides good results? I think consensus. I think for a long time it's looked at, what's the general consensus on a topic? What's the general point of view, whether it be through a product, service? What do people generally think about it from a content perspective? So therefore, if a site ultimately is portraying a very different view, that's totally polar opposite, it's unlikely to rank. So I think consensus certainly will provide another factor that hopefully should get rid of misinformation. But then you got the other side is, if there's lots of misinformation, the consensus will then be that misinformed view, not the actual more informed view. So, but yeah, I mean, it's such a big topic, but that's sort of, I think the social and establishing their real people, for me, I think is one of the key strands, certainly I'm seeing through this update.
Right. We were just speaking about misinformation. These AI content detection tools have a tremendous amount of false positives. So what are the strategies or technologies or tools that one can leverage to minimize the false positives and increase the accuracy of the result?
Yeah. So again, obviously with what we're doing with our new tool, we do see it. And by no means any one contact detector is by no means perfect. I think every single detector has blind spots, because also how they're training their models is in particular niches where they have more bias through education, academia, marketing, and so forth. So that's ultimately the inherent challenge. They are getting better, and they're producing lots of different studies to sort of demonstrate they are improving. But I think seeing the bigger picture, also when we started, guys, how the tool came to be was very much getting a sense of the bigger picture. And also that's how I see as a publisher us trying to minimize false positives, because they will happen, but ultimately getting a consensus on a wider range of detectors. And I think the other aspect is tolerance levels. Businesses, not all content is going to be hard to distinguish some types of content, whether it's more product marketing content, which is very easy to regurgitate through AI. But if your humans write it, they're writing in a very similar way. Whether it's a technical specification, it is factual. So any more factual stuff like that, it's going to be quite hard to think that it's going to turn it into non-AI looking. So for people need to go accept the fact that that's fine. It may look like it's AI, but there's no other way of doing it. But the way I'd always look at it is, how do you inject some personality? So rather than just solely being functional, how do you inject personality, brand personality, and standout on describing a product or whatever it may be? I think that's how they can sort of come in and ultimately balance what their tolerance levels are. So it's not just 100% AI. Maybe you're looking at sort of 50 to 60% based on product marketing content. You'll need to, in effect, create your tolerance levels depending on the type of content. I think that's probably where people are going to start settling on.
A little bit about generative AI now, Andrew. What are the biggest threats you see to using Gen AI, and how can businesses minimize that risk?
I think making sure, as we've discussed, I think it's an aid. It's by no means a replacement. I think the risk will be businesses make the decision to replace core parts of their business solely with AI, which potentially will have a detrimental effect because there's a lack of oversight. And also de-skilling a lot of the workforce who also had that experience and understanding how things work. So I think that potentially would lead to, and no doubt we'll see in the future, some things that will happen, some issues that will happen because people just let AI run wild. But I think it's important that, that ultimately AI doesn't have the experience or wisdom of a particular business. It just knows what's happened before and then aggregates and creates a probability. Therefore, I don't think, I think people thinking AI is more intelligent than it is at the moment would be a bit of a misnomer. I think it is not intelligence. It is just an algorithm, predictive model, the likelihood of the next word going to be this based on what's happened before. It's very clever, but ultimately that is fundamentally these large language models at its core is ultimately what it is. So again, goes back to how it's looking at making sure how do we use AI to enhance your business process and make sure that it's done in a responsible way.
And then which industries do you think can use generative AI to the best use that they can put it to? And how can they use it to revolutionize business operations, which is the same thing as putting it to the best use they can? So which industries do you think would come under that?
Oh, it's far-reaching. I think if we roll out 20 years, as the internet came to mass audience, no one really predicted how much of disruption it would have in society and businesses. I see AI as that next big disruptor. So therefore, ultimately, is every part of people's society, everyday lives will be impacted. So I think probably the first things that are going to be, have biggest impact will be more repetitive tasks. Things that don't need lots of experience, that are more repetitive, mundane elements. Just like the internet, similar thing as communication. You don't need to post. Ultimately, there's a lot more automation happening. So obviously, manufacturing. You already see it now. Manufacturing being impacted by AI with robots. Farming, agriculture. You don't need a farmer to drive a tractor. You can do it all with AI. And I think more basic service industries, obviously you see chatbots and so forth, which sometimes are quite infuriating because they're very, very well trained. But that's all more basic service industry level. I think that's probably the areas where I'd see. And of course, the sort of marketing at sort of functional level, there's lots of automation happening there. So I think it's a mixture of in sectors, but also disciplines and the sort of more mundane, repetitive tasks that people generally don't like to do. AI will also take over there. But I think looking ahead, as AI does get smarter, you can see a world where the AI is managing teams of AI. Ultimately, based on what they're doing, it then looks to ultimately build more effective and efficient services and products. But also, you could potentially see AI managing people, workflows, and so forth. And you sort of see that already in sales environments where certain systems will guide them down a certain path and get them to phone this person. And you see that in a programmatic way. But I think AI will play a bigger part in how ultimately AI manages teams. So Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting world. Obviously, there are scary parts of it, and obviously there are negative parts, but also I think there's lots of positives come out of this technology.
And you miss the entertainment and gaming industry.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, and again, when we start to see game publishers are certainly being quite quiet in regards to how they're looking to use AI, but ultimately I can see there's lots of interesting games that we developed where, in effect, AI will create an ever-going narrative and storytelling, and also creating the relevant games. So where particularly a game may take 10 years to develop, you may have one where AI generates it and it just keeps evolving. So I think that's going to be interesting. It's going to disrupt, because the amount of money that game publishers invest in games with the workforce, I think there's going to be a big disruption happening there. But from a gamer perspective, it's quite an exciting thing. It means that whatever game you enjoy, you can continue to enjoy because ultimately it's ever evolving because AI is generating new narratives. So yeah, it's certainly interesting developments.
Right. And with that, I have to thank you for your time, Andrew. It was really interesting. An interesting conversation, not your standard run-of-the-mill enterprise technologies and, stuff which we do every day. I really thank you for your insights, and also hope that, people like us, publishers like us, get to use Content Guardian at some point in time so that, benefits can flow.
Thank you very much. It's been great to chat.
Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you so much for being with us. Please do follow us on social media for regular updates and new content.